cast member of Street Outlaws, that's a Discovery TV show, has died while filming in Las Vegas.
Jacqueline and John, Metro Police say the 41-year-old cast member died in a car accident around 12:30 Sunday morning during filming.
Street Outlaws wasn't just a TV show. It was a national phenomenon that transformed a group of Oklahoma street racers into household names. What started as a modest documentary blossomed into a multi-season hit with millions of viewers. But behind the roar of engines and cheering fans, cracks were silently spreading. Tragedy struck more than once, and the very identity of the show shifted under its own weight. Could the loss of its original star and escalating dangers off the track alone end such a powerful legacy? The real story reveals a deeper unraveling that no one saw coming. The mystery behind the sudden end of Street Outlaws was once one of Discovery Channel's biggest hits, drawing millions of viewers hungry for the thrill of underground racing and the lives of the men and women who lived it. It welcomed audiences into a world that felt raw and unfiltered, where rival crews battled for supremacy on Oklahoma's roads, living by rules nobody else set. Yet, after more than a decade of success, the series suddenly fizzled, leaving fans wondering what could have caused such a promising show to vanish without a clear explanation. The collapse wasn't simply about ratings or shifting entertainment trends. It ran deeper, tangled with events many didn't see coming. On the surface, it looked like Street Outlaws was evolving with spin-offs like No Prep Kings and America's List, expanding its reach and offering new racing formats. Production companies continued to push the brand into different directions, trying to keep the engine running. But the core group of racers and viewers sensed something was changing underneath. The authenticity that hooked people from the start began to erode, replaced by more scripted rules and competitions that didn't feel true to the original street racing culture. The question on everyone's lips became, why did this beloved series, which had already survived tragedy and controversy, suddenly shut down? There was no official final episode or grand farewell. Instead, the show simply ended as the original cast dispersed, leaving only scattered traces behind. It was as if an invisible fracture spread through the community, unseen at first, but devastating in its consequences. What exactly caused that fracture remained unclear, prompting speculation fueled by social media buzz and insider rumors. What complicated the situation was the mix of factors driving change. It was never just one event, but a series of incidents and decisions that piled up, pushing the show past a point of recovery. Fans felt the absence of the charisma and leadership that once anchored the drama. Behind the scenes, alliances and relationships between cast members and production became strained, leading to a growing disconnect. The tension between street racing culture and television spectacle was coming to a head, threatening the very foundation the show was built on. Many wondered if the challenges of filming dangerous races without the safety net of sanctioned events might have played a role in the downfall. Risk was always part of the appeal, but when tragedy struck, it forced uncomfortable questions about responsibility and ethics. Viewers struggled to reconcile their excitement for the races with the real dangers the drivers faced every time they took the line. As the show grew, so did the stakes, and the community had to confront the cost of entertainment at that price. This unraveling became impossible to ignore when a catastrophic event forced the racing world and its viewers. The death that changed everything. In August 2022, the street racing community and fans around the country were shaken to their core when Ryan Fellows, a beloved racer and family man, died in a horrific crash while filmed for Street Outlaws. At just 41 years old, Fellows was known for his gold Nissan 240Z and his role in the series' Fastest in America competition, which pitted crews from across the country against each other. The accident occurred near the Harry Allen generating station in Las Vegas during what was supposed to be a routine race. But tragedy struck when Fellows lost control near the finish line. His car rolled and caught fire, and despite bystanders' desperate attempts, he could not be saved. The impact of this crash went far beyond personal loss. It opened a floodgate of questions about the show's safety practices and the environment where these races were staged. Unlike regulated drag strips, the road where Fellows died was dangerously narrow, measuring just 12 feet wide compared to the standard 30 feet required for professional drag racing. Investigations revealed that the production had a permit to close the street, but lacked the safety infrastructure that would normally protect racers and crews at sanctioned events. This glaring oversight highlighted a reckless gamble with lives for the sake of raw, edgy footage. The Nevada Occupational Safety and Health Administration launched a formal inquiry, focusing on whether the production prioritized spectacle over safety. Family members of Fellows expressed shock and outrage, describing how they were devastated by what seemed like preventable circumstances. A wrongful death lawsuit followed, filed against major parties including the television network, the production company, and associated studios. The lawsuit alleged gross negligence, pointing to repeated crashes at the location before the fatal accident and accusing the show of ignoring safer venues available nearby. What made the lawsuit particularly damning was the production's decision to continue filming at a narrow, unprepared road despite knowledge of prior incidents. After Ryan Fellows died, filming moved to a professionally prepared drag strip in California, underscoring that safer options had been available all along. This shift not only highlighted failings in judgment, but also suggested that the network had placed entertainment value above the welfare of its participants. Public backlash intensified, casting a long shadow over Street Outlaws and its related series. Fans and insiders recognized this tragedy as a turning point that forced everyone to reconsider the costs of turning genuine street racing into televised drama. The death of a competitor on camera brought uncomfortable truths into the spotlight. This was more than just entertainment. It was real risk lived out in front of millions. The weight of accountability pressed down heavily on producers, crews, and racers alike, fracturing trust and raising the stakes for everyone involved. Yet Fellows' death was not the only blow dealt to Street Outlaw. These compounded losses would eventually prove impossible to recover from. The departure of the show's heart. At the center of Street Outlaw's success was Justin Shearer, better known as Big Chief, who wasn't just a talented racer, but the undeniable leader and race master of the 405 crew. His role was real, rooted in years of managing the Oklahoma City street racing scene, earning respect that no camera or producer could manufacture. Chief's authority shaped the show's narrative and created an authenticity that fans loved. When cameras arrived, he was the de facto narrator, strategist, and conscience, a figure around whom the entire community revolved. However, as the show expanded its reach with spin-offs like No Prep Kings and America's List, production began steering the series toward a more formalized competition model. This shift conflicted with the street racing roots that Chief had helped build. He publicly stated that he no longer recognized the show's direction and refused to defend rules he hadn't agreed to, such as the race your way in policy, which he believed was unfair to certain racers. His withdrawal was more than a cast change. It was a loss of the show's spiritual center. Big Chief's departure in 2022 left a void that production scrambled to fill, attempting to replace his magnetic presence with new formats and fresh faces. Murder Nova stepped up to lead the 405 crew, but the chemistry and essence that once defined the show faltered. Fans noticed the difference immediately. The gritty street vibe gave way to a glossy, heavily produced version that lacked the raw edge and personal stakes that had driven the original. The split between Chief and the network played out publicly, with social media exchanges and public statements from other cast members exposing fractures within the community. This visible discord eroded audience trust and loyalty, further fragmenting the fan base. What had once been a brotherhood of racers turned into competing factions, each trying to find footing without the unifying figure of Big Chief. This departure symbolized a greater struggle within the show, the challenge of balancing genuine street culture with the demands and constraints of television production. Chief's role was never simply a character. It embodied the heart and authenticity that made the show resonate. Without him, the franchise's soul began to slip away, and the audience followed. While the production company continued expanding and adapting, the core energy that made Street Outlaws a phenomenon dissipated. The Racemaster's exit was a turning point, signaling that the original vision no longer matched what was being filmed. For longtime fans, it was the moment when the ride truly began to lose its direction. The ripples from Chief's departure and Ryan Fellow's death set the stage for more heartbreaking events that challenged the resilience of the Street Outlaws family and the very legacy they had worked so hard to build. Tragedy strikes again. Lizzie Musey. Just as the Street Outlaws community was trying to navigate the shock from Ryan Fellow's death and Big Chief's departure, it faced another profound loss, one that touched the racing world in a deeply personal way. Lizzie Musey, a rising star and fierce competitor, was not only the first woman to win a pro-nitrous national event in the Professional Drag Racers Association's U.S. Drags, but also a beloved member of the No Prep King series. Her passion and skill made her a compelling figure on and off the track, embodying the new generation of racers the franchise had helped bring into the spotlight. Lizzie's story was intertwined with racing from an early age, growing up in the shadow of her father, Pat Musey, a legendary engine builder whose reputation was well established long before Lizzie took the wheel. Her talent was undeniable, marked by a natural authority on the track that few could match. In 2023, she achieved a historic first by winning an event on No Prep Kings, proving that she belonged among the sport's elite. But just as her career reached its peak, life dealt a cruel blow. In April 2023, Lizzie publicly revealed she had been diagnosed with triple-negative stage 4 breast cancer, one of the most aggressive forms of the disease. It had already spread to her lymph nodes and liver, making her prognosis grim at just 32 years old. Instead of retreating from the public eye, she chose to share her journey openly, documenting her treatments and raising awareness on social media. Her courage added a new layer of respect and admiration from fans and fellow racers alike. Despite her illness, Lizzie continued to race whenever she was physically able, showing remarkable determination and resilience. In May 2024, she made the final round at Empire Dragway on No Prep Kings and finished second in the points standings, a testament to her unyielding drive and exceptional ability. Shortly after, she announced a break from racing to pursue specialized treatment in Germany, hoping for an option beyond what was available in the United States. Tragically, Lizzie passed away on June 27, 2024, at her home in North Carolina, surrounded by family. She was only 33 years old. Her father publicly commemorated her through a heartfelt post featuring a photo of Lizzie behind the wheel, a final tribute to her enduring legacy. The 6th season of No Prep Kings that premiered in October 2025 was dedicated to her memory, underscoring the profound impact she had on the racing community. While the racing continued and new talents emerged, the heartache that followed Lizzie's passing revealed how fragile the community had become, making the final fractures all but inevitable. The fragmentation of the Street Outlaws brand. Alongside the tragic losses, the Street Outlaws brand began to splinter in ways that few had anticipated. What started as a close-knit crew of street racers from Oklahoma City morphed into multiple competing shows and events, stretching the original identity thin. The core group that had earned millions of fans gradually dispersed, each member carving out their own path, rather than racing under a unified banner. This fragmentation diluted the sense of belonging that had drawn audiences in from the very start. The original series aired for 15 seasons before ending without renewal, while spin-offs like No Prep Kings persisted independently under Speed Promotions Racing. No Prep Kings focused on no prep drag racing, a different format, but one with identifiable ties to the original crew. Still, even it couldn't hold the cohesive power of the original, especially after losing key figures and facing mounting challenges. By 2025, Speed Promotions Racing canceled the remaining races for its season, effectively signaling the end of the broader franchise as fans had known it. Some of the original cast members turned to grassroots racing circuits, organizing independent events and returning to the scene that had existed long before cameras arrived. Doc, Dominator, AZN, and Monza reunited for the inaugural 405 shootout in Missouri in 2025, drawing a sizable crowd despite the lack of a TV deal. Their presence reaffirmed that the community and culture they built still held significant meaning, even outside mainstream media. However, the absence of a unified production left the brand scattered across platforms, including streaming services like HBO Max, but with less clear direction. These fractured efforts struggled to recapture the excitement and authenticity that had propelled the original show. Fans were left navigating a fractured landscape where events and content appeared disconnected, often feeling more commercialized and less genuine. The original cast members adapted in different ways, some focusing on building online content and merchandise, others organizing independent races and appearances. Big Chief began producing Midwest Street Cars content on YouTube, maintaining a strong online following, while Murder Nova continued efforts to lead the 405 crew in new formats. Meanwhile, noted racers like Ryan Martin upheld personal legacies by winning multiple No Prep Kings championships, though those successes felt increasingly separate from the original Street Outlaws phenomenon. These deep divisions and losses paved the way for the final chapter of the Street Outlaws saga, one shaped as much by economics and culture as by personal tragedy and shifting loyalties. The financial and cultural collapse. By late 2025, the inevitable finally arrived. The Street Outlaws era came to a quiet but definitive end. Speed Promotions Racing, the company behind No Prep Kings and the broader franchise, canceled its remaining races for the season, signaling the collapse of a once thriving empire. What many hoped would be a pause or reset turned into a full stop, with no new television deals on the horizon. The show that had captivated millions for over a decade was no more, leaving drivers, fans, and industry insiders at a crossroads. The cancellation was not just a business decision, but the result of mounting economic pressures, compounded by a fractured fan base and shifting viewer habits. The original passionate community had splintered across multiple channels and platforms, diluting the brand's impact and making it difficult to sustain large-scale production costs. Meanwhile, cable television itself was in decline, with streaming services altering how audiences consumed media. Street Outlaws' raw appeal struggled to translate in this new landscape, especially without its original core figures and emotional center. For many of the show's key players, this meant finding new ways to keep racing alive outside the confines of television contracts. Big Chief turned to digital content creation, building Midwest Street Cars on YouTube and maintaining a strong social media presence with hundreds of thousands of followers. Murder Nova took on a leadership role within the 405 crew, managing their legacy and continuing to race at independent events. These efforts kept the spirit alive, but without the financial security and exposure the show once provided. The fragmentation extended beyond just content. It reached into racing itself. The official Street Outlaws brand had fractured into three distinct paths: the original show, the No Prep Kings series, and a grassroots independent scene fueled by the original cast members. Each operated on different scales and with different goals, reflecting how the once unified community had adapted to survive but no longer marched as one. The sense of national sweep and cultural buzzing that made Street Outlaws a phenomenon was now a memory rather than a present reality. Despite the challenges, the passion for racing remained undiminished among the core group. The 405 shootout event in May 2025, which brought together Doc, Dominator, AZN, and Monza, drew an enthusiastic crowd even without the backing of a major network. Fans came to see the racers in their purest form, not on camera, but on the strip. This underscored a crucial point. The community, with all of its grit and camaraderie, existed independently of any TV show or production company. Yet for all the resilience, the financial realities could not be ignored. Canceling final events and the absence of contracts meant less income for racers and crews, making it difficult to maintain the level of competition and preparation that fans had come to expect. The economics that once supported Street Outlaws were no longer viable, hastened by decreased network interest and changing priorities within the motorsport entertainment world. The cultural impact of Street Outlaws endures, though, in the legacy it left behind. It opened up a subculture that few outsiders had seen and turned local racers into national personalities. It inspired new formats and brought street racing to mainstream audiences in a way no other show had. But with time and tragedy, the very contradictions that made it compelling, the mix of genuine street code and televised spectacle, eventually became its undoing. Street Outlaws captured lightning in a bottle, but behind the fame were real lives, losses, and a complex community facing change. Its end reminds us that success comes with heavy costs, and that sometimes what made a story great can't last forever. If you found this deep dive into the rise and fall of Street Outlaws insightful, be sure to like and subscribe for more stories that go beyond the surface. Thanks for watching.